Okay, let's talk about rentals. Not sure if you know, but I have a lot of experience being a landlord, not just managing for others, but also being the owner. So, there's a little bit of difference in that because you set your own rules, and sometimes your clients set different rules that they want enforced in a different way. But let's talk about kind of how to get into it. If you want to be, a landlord and you want to get into this, what have I learned? I'll just kind of talk off the cuff and tell you, what I've gone through, what to watch out for. So this video might kind of go a little everywhere when it comes to what I'm talking about, but it's all about being a landlord, acquiring property, how to invest, how to make decisions, and so on. And I'm not coming from a large multifamily background. I'm coming from a single family home, condo, or small multifamily. So these are all things that qualify for regular Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loans, which is pretty much where you're gonna start if you're just a beginner and you don't have tons and tons of cash laying around. So I'm gonna turn this camera around and just kind of show you. I'm at Rothenbach Park in Sarasota, Florida. So I won't have the camera on me. I'll have the camera pointed forward most of the time here so you can just kind of see what's going on here on this overcast day. Okay, so first I'm going to give you a quick little background. So I'm a real estate agent. My name's Maciek Zaremba. I'm currently under Fathom Realty. And I've been a landlord since 2002. When I bought my first condo, I instantly rented part of the property when I lived in it, which is today has been coined as house hacking, where you buy a property, you live in it, you rent out some rooms or one room or something to help pay the mortgage, and then you continually do that. You move out, you do the next one, and so on. So I kind of started house hacking. I had a condo at first. It was a townhouse, 4-bedroom townhouse, and then I got into a single-family home where actually I moved all of my tenants that were with me, which I thought were roommates, and they're not roommates. They're your tenants if you're the owner, and I moved all of them into a house. So everyone wanted to come with, So we did that, and then I rented the old condo to a lady that had 6 kids and 3 baby daddies, all in prison. Long story, Section 8. So long story on that one. But anyway, learned a lot of lessons, and I've had over 500 tenants so far. So I have a lot of experience, and really I started out with low-income rentals. Aside from the ones that I purchased, when after the economy crashed and everything, then I started picking up some low-income rentals. I had a couple partners in a business, and they funded the purchases, and I did all the work basically. So let's talk about, first of all, how should you strategize to do this? Like, what do you need to think about before you even look at a single piece of property? And I think the first thing is, where are you in life? Are you young and energetic, or are you old and non-energetic? And I mean much older than me. I'm 45 years old. And I started, at like 21, I think, or something like that, when I bought my first property. So where are you in life? Because if you're young and energetic, and you're a hard worker, then you're going to be a lot more tolerant to what can happen out there, and you're going to be fixing things and so on. If you're older, if you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, you might have kind of like been there, done that, or just that's not cut out for you for your lifestyle anymore. So I'm kind of gonna focus on my journey, which is when I was younger, when I was in my 20s and my 30s, 40s too, because I'm still a landlord. So what did I, get into? As someone who had no money and no assets and nothing really, I was just a broke kid who just graduated college and didn't want to live in my parents' house. So I found a condo, a townhouse, and I bought that. And I had a $9 an hour paying job, which is in 1990, in 2001, is when that happened. So it wasn't a lot of pay. It was very little pay back then. And it's probably the equivalent of about $20 an hour today. And I ended up buying a townhouse and rented out the rooms, and it was great because my entire mortgage was paid for by the tenants. Can you do that today? Not in Sarasota. You probably can in other places, but not here. Can you get like a 4 or 5 bedroom and rent 4 rooms, or maybe rent 5 rooms and you live in a converted garage or on a trailer on the property or something and have all your expenses covered? Probably, yeah, that's probably doable. One thing I would suggest is, if you're younger, is you're probably gonna have to go for, asset building. You're not going to be there cruising through life. You're going to be working hard because you have no money and you want to go and buy things that build up your assets. So you need to go and find deals. And when I say deals, I don't necessarily mean the lowest priced houses in a community, because usually the lower cost you go, the more, ghetto it gets, the more low income it gets, the more, white trash or whatever the neighborhood happens to be that it gets. So you may not want to go that route, but go somewhere where you're comfortable. And look, if you grew up in a very, very poor neighborhood, you're still in a poor neighborhood, then buying in a poor neighborhood may be very natural and normal for you. That's cool. But I didn't. So, I kind of ended up going to under where I grew up by about half the price, and then ended up kind of building up a little bit better from there. So I would recommend you find something that you're not going to get, shot in, and you're not going to get robbed necessarily, but it's not where your parents are living if your parents are semi-well off, You can't start there. You have to start with the best bang for your buck, and the first step is to look for properties that offer a great bang for your buck. So how do you find them? Well, lots of ways. MLS is one way, but there's a lot of eyeballs on the properties that are in the MLS. A lot of people are looking at those. They get syndicated to websites like Realtor.com and Zillow and so on. So there's so many people looking at them that you're at a disadvantage, and you may not want to go that route. You may want to go the route of, spreading the word that you're looking to buy a property. How do you spread the word? Easy. Tell people just present yourself as a real estate investor, even if you haven't invested into any real estate. Just tell people, hey, what do you do? You're like, well, my current job is, ABC, but truly I'm a real estate investor, and I'm looking for any investment property. Do you know anybody that might be wanting to sell a property? And you just want to look for something that has a great return, because when it comes to investment property, you can't be underwater. You shouldn't be underwater from day one. And if you don't know what underwater means, that means that you're buying it for more than it's worth. And the other type of underwater is that your payment is more than the rent brings in. Okay, you should have some sort of cushion for profit in there, at the very least 10%. But property manager will be involved one day, but you got to do what you got to do, I guess, when you start off. So try to find something with some equity, and definitely something that profits month over month, that has a potential, to profit even more. Then the other way to look for properties, aside from just telling people that you're a real estate investor, is you can buy some software, $50, $100 a month, that provides you with leads, with names of people. Like, for example, as a real estate agent, I use the RedX, just redx.com. And RedX provides me with, I have a subscription to the for sale by owners, to the expired listings, to the for rent by owners, geolocation, you can set a pin and you can call the people from that neighborhood, and just literally call people and just be like, hey, I'm a real estate investor looking to build my portfolio by 2 or 3 properties in 2024. Just wondering if you would consider selling. And that's the kind of conversation that you have. And then when they say no, it'd be like, well, do you have any properties that maybe you'd consider selling, maybe an investment property? And then just continue the conversation until that lead is expired, and you move on to the next lead, and try to dial at least 100 people a day. You have to do the hard work of finding the leads, the deals, and you will have some upfront costs when it comes to purchasing the data, And when you purchase the data, a lot of the times you're getting garbage data. So it's all in the numbers. The more dials you hit, the higher probability you have of finding somebody. Now, let's just say you've come to the point where you've found somebody, and you have a quote unquote lead. Somebody says, yeah, I would consider selling. What do you want to offer? Well, you need to educate yourself a little bit, and you need to go and look at comps, comparables. You need to go and look at the property, drive by the neighborhood. You don't need to, but I highly suggest it. And definitely let them set the price first, and then you negotiate them down to meet their needs and meet your needs, So now let's get into, what if you've found the property and you have it under contract and you want to go and rent it out. You want to go make money with it. What do you do? So first things first, repairs. You want to, when it comes to rentals, especially the lower income rentals, which is, like I said, where I have experience, you want to kind of start with the cheap stuff. You don't want to do this huge remodel and be like, oh, I'm going to take out this wall in this kitchen, and I'm going to go and redo the cabinets, and I'm going to redo the flooring. And no, it's a rental. The whole point is that it's a rental and it's not your house. So you're not going to go and make a crazy remodel for a property that you're not living in. Remember, rentals are all about the numbers. So you want to go and you want to create a plan for absolute minimal repairs. And if you have a luxury property, that's different, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about just middle class or entry level rental properties. And let me tell you, you don't paint as often as you think. You don't ever redo the floors unless you absolutely have to, and you definitely just repair cabinets and paint kitchens before you replace it. You kind of delay everything for as long as you can. The only thing you really do have to maintain are the water supply lines, any kind of outlets that might be a fire hazard or a hazard to the tenants, and the roof. Obviously save up money, because one day you're going to have a big ass roof bill, and you're going to have to do that, or else insurance won't cover you, especially if you're in the state of Florida. All right, let's continue here. So, what happens if let's just say you've repaired it, you've painted it, whatever you've done to kind of bring it up to speed, you've placed your ads. How do you go and select your tenant? And how do you find your tenant? So let's talk about this real quick, because I'll tell you something, things change. When I started, it was Craigslist. But now you go on Craigslist and you're going to have King Abdul-Jabbar, texting you and emailing you that he just inherited $15 million and he needs your help. So Craigslist is not a good place, but you know what? The more places you go and post, the more experience you're going to get. So maybe it's not that bad of an idea. I just don't do it anymore. Maybe you can actually find somebody who's decent. But nowadays we have Facebook Marketplace, which is a decent place. And here's why I say decent. There's a lot of scammers on Facebook, okay? You don't need to be uniquely identified to get on Facebook. So the scammers get out there, do their thing, and scam people out. And definitely don't ever rent a property off of Facebook Marketplace, because what I had happen on Facebook Marketplace is someone took my photos, listed it for rent at $1,100 when I had it listed for $2,600 on Zillow. And someone reached out to me directly, said, hey, I want to rent your place. I said, who are you? And they said, oh, we've been talking on Facebook Marketplace. And I said, no, we haven't. Don't get scammed. And then she told me all about it. So Facebook Marketplace is okay to get some leads, and I'll say call the people, okay? But before I talk about calling, let's talk about Zillow and Avail. So Zillow and Avail are the two places you should actually list your property. Zillow has a thing called Zillow Rentals. You can place it for rent, pay $30 for 90 days, and they will publish your listing. You'll get the calls, you'll get people inquiring and just clicking, I'm interested. And then it's your responsibility to call them. Now, Avail, which has partnerships with lots of websites, including Realtor.com, will go and have something pretty similar, but Zillow's is better. Now, I don't use Zillow's lease, I don't use Avail's lease, but it's a great place to go and get leads and people who are interested. And now when you do get a lead, call. That's it. You can have a little email, canned email response, saying like, hey, thanks for inquiring. I want to schedule a call with you. When's a good time for you? By the way, here's some pet policy, and here's the rental term. It's a year lease. You pay electricity, you pay water and trash and whatever your terms are, If you're in an HOA or in a condo association, tell them some of the rules that are important. Sometimes they don't allow motorcycles. Sometimes they limit how many cars they can have, and quiet hours and things like that. So always call them. That's all I'll say. Always call them. When you call somebody, you're speaking to a real person, and you avoid the biggest problem that I had at the beginning of my landlord career, and that was no-shows. I just had people not showing up. They would schedule an appointment, and then after that appointment was set, I would show up and they wouldn't come. It was like they called me at noon. It's like, hey, let's meet at 3. And then I'm waiting at 3, 3:15, 3:30. Then I call them, and then they either say, oh, sorry, I forgot to tell you something came up, or they don't answer at all. So when you talk to them, it really helps to do that. And then also, before you drive out, call them again and be like, hey, I'm about to leave. Are we still meeting at the property at this time? And that has been a huge help. And I no longer have no-shows. That has completely been eliminated out of my life. So it's a good tip to go on. So now let's talk about a little bit about what is it that you should be looking for in a tenant. And after I've talked to them and after I've shown them the property, if they're interested, I don't judge based on their looks. I don't judge based on their vehicle, okay? I have had people who are poor and have been the best tenants ever, and they don't present themselves very well. And then I've also had people who present themselves very well, only to hide a meth, addiction, and then being wanted by the police and people breaking down my door. Long story, but I've had crazy stories, having been a landlord with over 500 tenants. So never judge them based on their looks, but you do want to have them fill out an application. And in order to do that, I use a service called My Smart Move. It's called mysmartmove.com, and it's offered by TransUnion. And the tenants pay for the application. Every tenant, I think it's like $35 or something. So each adult has to fill this out. The adults fill it out, and it checks their social security number, which you don't get the info on. It's private, but they check their credit score. They check how much they earn. They check if they're wanted in other countries. They do a background check and a credit check, basically. And as part of the credit check, I try to take people with a decent credit. I won't necessarily take someone with horrible credit with really recent late payments, but I will take someone that had late payments 3 years ago, because people clean up, people go through bad times, I guess. And then the next thing is when it comes to their earning, how much they earn. They don't really do a great job reporting on this, but I try to look for 3x. And 3x means if your rental amount is $1,000 a month, then they should make $3,000 a month combined, all adults combined together. If your rental is $2,000, then it's $6,000 a month. I try to stick close to that, and you'll notice that the lower income of a property you have, the lower your ratio will be. It might be 2x or 2.5x. If it's anything less than 2x, 100% I will not take them, period, end of story. But a lot of times people have side hustles. So, let me give you a couple examples. Sometimes people they breed pit bulls and they sell puppies at Christmas time, and that brings in a lot of money, okay? And that's not on the books, so it's not going to show up on any background check or whatever. Other times, people do cleaning on the weekends, and they get paid, $400 a weekend for a full day of cleaning some office or some contract they have, So there's lots of side hustles people have, and I like to talk about all their earnings, and I notate what they told me before they move in, so that I know that if anyone starts falling behind on rent, I have data that I can reference back in the conversations while I'm still trying to work with them until it's too late, and then I file eviction. Know your laws, by the way. Go read the residential tenancy statutes of your state. Okay, so now that you've checked, that they're credit worthy and they make enough money, you want to check their criminal history. And once again, it depends what kind of income, what level of income your property is at. If you're a low income property, then they might have, some criminal activity that's there's like victimless criminal activity, like jaywalking or something stupid. There's a lot of that stuff. So when it's victimless, I'm a lot more lenient. When there's a victim involved, for example, domestic violence and things like that, I don't play with that. I don't take those tenants. That's my rule, okay? Other landlords have other rules. It all depends on how low you go. If you're going to go into the ghetto or into some really trashy neighborhood that's just like really bad, drug-ridden, or maybe just major poverty, you're going to have some sort of blemish on people's criminal records, okay? So just know that depending on what quality you're renting, that's what you're going to get. And even if you have the nicest property in a bad neighborhood, you're still going to get the people that live in that neighborhood. So they're going to have, some sort of blemish on their criminal background. But one thing that will show up on the criminal check is the eviction history. And if I see anything with an eviction, I usually don't take it, okay? So what does it mean though? Just because someone has had an eviction, it doesn't mean the landlord won. It might mean that the landlord was spiteful and filed for an eviction proceeding and then dropped the case. Or maybe someone started falling behind and then they caught up, but the eviction was filed and it was dropped. So sometimes it's not really fair to just jump to conclusions. I would research this just a little bit more, find out from the tenant, see if I could get a contact information to that plaintiff, and see if the landlord, basically see what they are saying, what happened, okay? Because the tenant's going to tell you one story, and that's probably less than half the story, okay? So I like to get more information if I'm even considering them in the first place, right? Let's now move on a little bit, and let's just say you've checked your people, you're ready to rent. You get a lease. You can get free leases out there. You can go and make a new concoction of your own lease. You can do all types of stuff, but Zillow has their own lease that they give away. I think it's free. I'm not even sure. But let's just say you've signed a lease, you've taken the deposit, you've set up a separate bank account for this business, because that's what it is, and you are now a landlord. It's really important that you do one thing, and that's find out what the law says that you are actually responsible for. It is not just like you fix everything. It's not like that, okay? In Florida, let me give you a couple examples. In Florida, if you're somebody who is a landlord and there in your lease, in your written lease, there's no mention of pest control, then you are responsible for pest control. But if your lease mentions that pest control is the responsibility of the tenant, well, then they're responsible. Some things default to one party or another by Florida law, residential tenancy law, and other things are specifically says that landlord is always responsible for, like the roof leaking, for example. The landlord is always responsible for that in a residential lease. In a commercial lease, that's a little different. Check your laws and check your leases, but basically, you should just spend a lot of time educating yourself on what exactly is the law, what are you responsible for, and what are you not responsible for. So get to it. Look up, do a Google search, something along the lines of Florida residential tenancy statutes, and then start reading. Print it out and read for 10 minutes a day for a year. I mean, I'm not even joking, okay? I've read that thing, 50, 100 times. But I have been a landlord a long time, but still, I've read it more than one time per year on average. So, and that's a long set of, rules, right? So I just say, educate yourself so that you can be a good landlord. At the end of the day, you don't want to go and be a security deposits seizing landlord who's in the business of, you know, seizing deposits and so on, and evicting people. You just want to be a good landlord. You want to trade your property for money. That's it. Like the use of your property for money. So learn what it takes and be very clear in the communication of everything. Now, a couple things that I just want to say, a couple stories I want to share. You know, what I've learned about tenants, and especially lower income tenants, and some stories that I have of what has happened. So the one thing I had happen was I've had many drug dealers, and I didn't know they were drug dealers, but hey, you then find out from neighbors and so on. So whenever I have a drug dealer, even if it's just like weed or something stupid, I don't play that game. Sorry, I tell everyone up front before they move in, like, hey, if there's any reported drug activity, two things are going to happen. One is you're going to get a notice to cure the problem. You have 7 days to stop dealing. So make all your deals in the next 7 days. The second thing is I'm going to report you. I'm going to file a complaint with the police department. I hate to say it, you know, but usually, or not usually, every time that I've had a drug dealer, it ends up being bad for me. So I'm not going to go play that game anymore. And sometimes, you know, people get away with it for longer than others, but at the end of the day, no one has stuck around with me threatening to report them and so on. And I have reported people, you know. I mean, I gotta do what I gotta do. I told you ahead of time, you started dealing, I'm done. That's it, okay? And usually when they do that and they fix it, I'm not going to renew them. I'm just going to I'm going to do a non-renewal at the end of their 12 months and then move on to the next tenant, you know. Well, that was cool. I saw deer. I saw 2 deer. Let me give you some more stories. I had a tenant who was Section 8 and absolutely trashed a property. And when you have a Section 8 tenant, you can use that privilege that they have against them if they screw up your property. So take a lot of pictures, a lot of documentation every single time before somebody moves in, and just get, you know, evidence of the current condition that it's in, because some tenants ruin things, and I had a tenant that completely ruined a property. It was bad. It was really, really bad. And they had Section 8, and then I wasn't able to get anything done with it, but I learned after the fact I could have. But I called Section 8, told them what's happening, and they basically took the tenant's side. So, you know, it is what it is. I did lose a bunch of money on that one, but I could have actually documented it and reported it a little more, like a little better, more organized to Section 8, to the Housing Authority. All right, the last thing I'm going to talk about is pets. So I don't like pets. Well, I do like pets. I don't like pets in my properties, let's say that. Here's the thing though, when you get a tenant with a pet, you can charge more money. And you don't have to just say, hey, I'll take an extra $300 security deposit. You can actually go and charge an extra $75 a month per pet, right? People will do that. And the other thing is that when someone gets a pet, document the pet. What is the pet's name? What is the pet's age? Show me that you have insurance for pets biting people and so on. And just get organized in that sense. You can charge more money, and it's good in that sense. You can get a non-refundable security deposit in addition to additional rent and the regular security deposit. So, you know, it's kind of like a money-making thing. And people who have pets, especially large dogs, they are very limited. There's not that many places that they can rent, you know. So they're kind of more desperate. They realize that they're an inconvenience for a landlord. Also, you know, I hate to say it, but does the dog smell? And I'm not talking about service animals. That's a totally different conversation. I'm not going to give you legal advice on that, you know, or anything really. I'm just a landlord walking and talking. But service animals have rights. So if someone has a service animal, talk to your lawyer. That's it. But pets, I definitely, like if I approve a 15-pound little, you know, Chihuahua, I don't want to see a big 35, 65, 85-pound dog when I come back, you know, in a couple months. So whatever pet gets approved, that's the pet that they get to keep. That's just how it works, okay? So kind of no exceptions on that. What you come in with is what you keep. If you want to get a different pet, it has to be approved, or else you're, you know, subject to you know, fines or just non-renewal or whatever. Listen, everything is situational dependent. Every situation is a little different, okay? So just keep that in mind. Listen, I was just talking a lot about me being a landlord. I don't know if anyone even made it this far, but if you did, what questions do you have? Feel free to drop the questions in the comments. I will answer you one by one. I will answer every single question that I get, even if I get, you know, 10,000 comments on this video. So write it down. Thanks for watching.